any of us who have children, or are you thinking of having children when you grow up?
I have a 1-year-old daughter. So yeah, she just turned 1 like a week ago. So yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about all this for her. You know, what type of world am I leaving for her? What sort of example am I showing to her in terms of how you should, you know, presence yourself in the world, and like what sort of impact do you have on that world? Like I want to lead by example, but also leave her something good.
Welcome to the I Don't Believe in Astrology podcast. The podcast is dedicated to conscious souls looking to change the world. Astrologer by day, climate activist by night. Here is your host, Debra Silverman.
Well, this is so interesting. As usual, this person has no idea what he's getting into. That was the first thing Bobby said. But when you see his chart, you're going to say, this guy loves, but he doesn't know what he's getting into. It's called adventure, and he specializes in adventure. Is that a surprise?
It's not a surprise to me. It's a surprise that you know that.
That's my point. So the name of this podcast is the I Don't Believe in Astrology podcast. So you don't have to believe in it. And I happen to have your chart, which we will make reference to if you're okay with that briefly. Sure. But first, I want to introduce you guys. How did we get to meet? Bobby is a very interesting guy that he works for the Savory Institute, which is a biological, he's a biological resource engineer, whatever that means.
That's me, yes.
That's your trade, a biological resource engineer. In other words, what does that mean?
That means I study biological systems and try to optimize health for them. I originally started out doing that, you know, getting involved in like medical devices, and I worked for the FDA for a number of years, designing clinical trials and whatnot, but realized that that wasn't my passion, and I made a switch over into the nonprofit space. And now I'm with the Savory Institute, and, you know, kind of using my skills more in terms of optimizing health for people and planet, in terms of regenerating grassland ecosystems.
Grassland ecosystems.
Yes.
Okay, I'm a little slow, which is a quality that I appreciate about myself, because that means I get to ask the questions that no one else asks, because they all act smart, and I just know that I don't know. So I'm uninhibitedly willing to admit that.
I love it. I love the humility.
Yeah, I specialize in humility, kind of. Okay, so first things first. We met at a Savory Institute gathering in Boulder that I didn't even know. It was very spontaneous. And originally, my very first podcast is with Jeff Arlowski, who wrote Chasing Coral, Chasing Ice, and The Social Dilemma. And so he and many others have got me fascinated. And I feel a little late to the party. Like it took me until the last 8 months that I suddenly went, wait a minute, this climate crisis, I haven't done my research. So I hired someone at CU in University of Colorado, the #1 student in her 4th year. And I said, would you do some research for me? And I gave her all my questions about Chasing Coral. Is where it started. And then Choosing Earth, another documentary I watched. And then Kissing the Ground, another one that I watched. And I became very literate about, oh my God, it's so much worse than I thought. And I have children, and how am I handing this to them? That's cruel. Yeah. Now, we all know Al Gore came online, I don't know, 2005, and said, excuse me, but when your kids say, did you know what's happening? I didn't quite track it as well as I'm doing now. So first I want to ask you, knowing your chart as I do, and I know you don't know astrology, is that true?
That's correct. I do not.
Well, I'm just going to show your chart, because this will, even though it will look like Egyptian hieroglyphics, and it is, but this is what it looks like, just so you can see it. Let me put this away. You have, this is the sky the day you were born. This is where your mom was, where the center of the circle is where she's giving birth. And the sun right here, because you were born at 4 a.m, was in the dark. This is the dark part of the sky. This is the above the horizon. But you have 5 planets in one house, and they're all in Sagittarius, which is the philosopher, big picture, wanting to be able to say things that no one else says, a little bit blunt. Would that be one of your personality traits?
I definitely will say the things that need to be said, but I don't know. I find that as a communicator, I try to.
Such a Capricorn. You're displaying your Capricorn right now. Let's just cut to the short. You're diplomatic and you're
Yes.
respectful, Mr. Double Earth, but boy, are
Yes.
you a truth teller. You cannot sit for too long
Yes.
before it's going to bug the shit out of you that people aren't telling the truth.
Yes. Yes. Honesty is number one above all else.
Okay, so we see that he has Neptune, Jupiter, Venus, Uranus, and the rising in Sag, which means adventures, honesty, taking risks, and speaking to the unspeakable is your specialty. But here's the gift you have as a double earth sign, Sun in Capricorn, Moon in Taurus. You're very calm.
Yeah.
So you hold down the fort, you wait until the energy has got to be spoken, and then you just go blah.
Yeah. Wow. So it's interesting. So that you talk about like the adventure and taking risks. So, I mentioned that I'm a biological resources engineer. I also used to be a skydiving instructor on the weekends. That was like my weekend gig. And, I live in Colorado. So, I have been into, rock climbing, ice climbing, and everything else that you do in Colorado.
You're an outside guy who has a passion for practical results. You're not just an adventurer. You want to be Conquerich as the engineer that said, I want to learn a system that I can help people. So that brings us to your current job. Tell us how long you've been working at the Savory Institute and what it's about.
Sure. I've been at Savory since January of 2016, I want to say, or no, January 2017. I'm the director of development and communications. So I handle fundraising, marketing, all basic communications, a lot of partnerships. We're a small team. We're 12 people. So, really, I wear a lot of hats. But Savory Institute, we are a nonprofit, and our mission is to regenerate the grasslands of the world. Grasslands represent about 1/3 of the Earth's landmass. So that's 5 billion hectares or 12.5 billion acres. So, massive tracts of land we're talking about. Yeah. I mean, 1/3 of the Earth's land surface. And, depending on which expert you're talking to, somewhere between 30 to 70% of them are turning to desert and dying, this process known as desertification.
Desertification. I learned that word and I was in awe. Like desertification, how much of the land on Earth has been spoiled and the carbon therefore won't be received into it because there's no more receptivity. It's flat.
Yeah. And not just even the carbon sequestration aspects. I mean, that of course is a very important part given where we are in the climate crisis. Atmospheric CO2 is at 416 parts per million right now. And experts say we need to get it down to 350. Pre-industrial, it was around 280. So, the soil is this massive carbon reservoir that can be utilized if we can bring it back to function. And you can do that by growing trees and things like that. But we have these grasslands, which represent such a huge portion of our planet. And we need to steward these
desert. I can never say the word.
Desertification.
Desertification. I'm going to just say it over and over. How did that even happen?
Well, if you go back and you look at when grasslands used to be healthy, let's go back to before humans messed everything up. So in North America, there used to be 60 million bison roaming across North America in these tightly bunched herds to keep themselves safe from their predators, the wolves. Their urine and dung would act as a natural fertilizer. They would graze the grasses and then they'd move on to a new pasture, and they wouldn't return until the grasses had fully recovered. Well, the problem is we've domesticated most of our grazing herbivores. We've gotten rid of most of their predators, and we've built roads and cities and fences and things that basically have disrupted their natural migratory corridors. So there's a lot of people in conservation type.
Mr. Fasty Pants, Mr. Fasty. So we ruined it by the insert of roads and also the exhaustion of the land.
Yeah, I think there's a few pieces. One, we have put up physical barriers so that they can't just roam about as they used to. They can't just migrate around and return back.
Bison are gone. So the bison were contributing to the maintenance.
Yeah, they're these herbivores. Essentially, you think of grass and a grazing herbivore. Grasslands and grazing herbivores co-evolved with one another for millennia. They need one another to stay healthy. A cow or a bison or a sheep or a goat or a reindeer or elk or whatever needs to eat grass to stay alive.
Did you say reindeer and elves?
Elk.
Okay, just checking. Reindeer?
Not
There's no
elves.
reindeer? There's
Maybe the
really-
elves do too. I don't know how they graze elves. I'm not quite
Okay.
sure.
Okay, so
But-
they need this grass.
Yeah, they need to eat grass, and grass needs to be grazed. You think of like a tree. A deciduous tree will shed its leaves every fall, and then it regrows new ones in the spring. Grass doesn't shed its leaves. So grass needs to be grazed to continue the life cycle. There's that cycle of life: birth, growth, death, decay. Well, grass needs to be grazed to continue to give it that stimulus of regrowth so that it can stay healthy. If you don't, the grass ends up dying off. So when you remove grazing herbivores from grasslands, that grass eventually dies off.
Oh, now I get it. So we're removing all these creatures that cultivated the grass by grazing.
Mhm.
There's this funny word, desertification. How'd I do?
Yes, pretty much. And there's obviously a lot more to it in terms of, how like you go for a hard workout and then you need to rest and recover afterwards. That's when you get stronger. The same thing is true for grazing. The land needs to have a grazing event, and then it needs to have adequate recovery time for the grasses to regrow and for their roots to reestablish. And so that's where that migration of these large herds came in. They would have that big grazing event, and then they'd move on to give the recovery. Well, because those massive herds don't exist anymore, we need to mimic that in the modern context. And so that's what we do at Savory Institute is we teach farmers and ranchers and pastoralist communities how to do this with their cows or sheep or goats, essentially by instead of having wolves herd the bison together, you can use portable electric fencing to bunch them up and then move them from one pasture to the next. So essentially mimicking what used to be these ancestral migratory patterns. You can do it in a modern context with electric fencing. You can herd by foot or on horseback or on four-wheeler. There's a variety of ways to do it, but that's essentially what we teach people to do.
So it's the controversy that I know. What was his name? Savory's first name?
Alan Savory.
There's a great TED talk you guys have to go watch by Alan Savory. And the controversy he instilled, because all the studying I had done had said, we got to get rid of animals. We got to get rid of cows. We got to go plant-based because the cows' farts, I love saying that, are filled with methane and they're destroying the car. And then I suddenly went, I was telling this to someone from Savory with Janelle. She was like, wrong answer. I was like, what? So that whole premise that we've got to get rid of the animals, the opposite is true, bringing them back to the land, letting them live off the land and moving them consciously and cultivating what was once true back to basics. Radical departure from what I'd read, by the way.
It is. I think a lot of people have tried to paint the picture as plant-based versus animal-based. And so it's plants against animals. It's this very black or white binary debate. When in reality, what we should be focused on is the industrialization of agriculture. Because cows, let's use cows, for example. It could be sheep, it could be goats. Cows essentially are these ecological engineers that change how the landscape works. They can regenerate the grassland, they can overgraze a grassland and destroy it. It depends on how they're managed. It depends how you manage those animals on the landscape. So cows inherently aren't good or bad. It's how they're managed that depends. The same thing can be said for croplands. Just because something is plant-based doesn't necessarily mean it's got a positive environmental impact. There are these huge, large monocultures of a single species, and they spray all these different biocides that ruin soil health and are terrible for the health of everyone. And that's not good either. But there is an alternative to that, where you grow different plants in symbiosis with one another. Maybe you have livestock that are being integrated to improve soil fertility. There's a way of moving away from these monocultures of agriculture that are
basically financial monsters to let the farm become the source and not the land be the attention, but the finance. There's a great film. I mean, it's so great that was done by Pamela Tanner Boll.
Yes.
She made it so vivid that they took it to the UN. You know this, yes? They just received.
Yes. Yeah. They just showed it at COP26.
I was so impressed. And she gave me the film and I watched it and I was like, uh-oh, see, this is just classical. Everything I'd studied and I had gone down the rabbit hole and very depressing. She just turned it all around by saying, hold on a minute. We can change this by creating animal, because I'm a vegetarian, but I
Which is
realized,
totally cool.
yes, but there's nothing to be said about diminish, like take away the animals and do monocrops and have this farm be based on financial return rather than a long view about the planet. So welcome to Bobby's work.
Yeah. Well, and who's to say that doing the right thing for the planet can't be profitable? It surely can.
Did you watch the film?
I did. To Which We Belong is the name of the film by Pamela. And it's not out yet, but I've seen it a few times because I'm a huge fan of it. And, I've been to, one of the storylines in the film is the Inankishu Conservancy in Kenya. So that's actually one of Savory Institute's hubs, which I visited there in 2019. We had a training out there, and it's just a beautiful place to see, because right now I live in Colorado. So, when I see grazing and when I see agriculture, it's bison or cows out on these big, massive pastures. But out there in Kenya, it's not cowboy culture, it's the Maasai people. And, they are traditional pastoralists and herders. So everyone owns cows or goats, and they graze them alongside all the wildlife. So there's impala and bushbuck and zebra and gazelle and lions and giraffe and elephant.
Lions and tigers and bears. And what about leopards?
Yeah. And it's all there. And it's beautiful because what they've done is they have gone and they took this land that was feeling the effects of desertification and of climate change. The land is getting worse and worse and worse over time. And one of the reasons that was happening was that all of the Maasai people have livestock, but they were grazing their own individual herds. So everyone was competing for grass, and the grass didn't get a chance to rest and recover, like I was saying, is one of those very critical pieces. So what they did is they got the community together and they brought all of their animals together as one communal herd. And now they move those animals together as one communal herd according to holistic planned grazing, which is what we teach people to do. And in doing so, the grasslands have regenerated and it brought back all the wildlife. And now the Maasai have more prosperity because they have more animals, and that's how they store their wealth. And it's just like this beautiful symbiosis of just community coming together in a thoughtful, traditional, back to basics sort of approach using holistic planned grazing. And in doing so, it's really provided, returns to everyone, and just like abundance is flowing everywhere. It's beautiful.
It's such a great story. I just want to stop and pause and just say, this is the good news that no one ever tells you, because when you study, listen to me, I am telling you, I went down such a bad rabbit hole and I got so depressed. I scared myself. And I watched Chasing Coral twice because Jeff was coming over and I was going to do a reading for him. And I walked in, this is not good. This is so Debra. I walked in and I said, fuck you. And he was like, what? And I said, that film broke my heart. Like, you ruined me. I cannot come back to life. It took me. And then right during that window is when I met Pamela and Danielle. And I was like, I think I'm back. And then I said, call Jeff. And I was like, you've got to go watch In Which We Belong, because it's going to review or recover the thought that the land was like, because it is true about the coral. I live here in Hawaii. And there is no coral. Like, we have really destroyed the coral. And this is the highest extinction of anywhere in the world is in Hawaii, because there's so many special, unique birds and plants that are going because the coral. So I don't want to pretend that, Bobby has the answers to everything. Like, oh, thanks, Bobby. But there is something to be said about the positive answer. Yes. So are you an optimist, Mr. 5 Planets in Sagittarius?
Absolutely. Yeah.
See what the name said.
I think you have to. There is so much doom and gloom that you see from every angle. Especially we're living in the era of COVID right now. And, the younger generation is really experiencing eco-anxiety. That's becoming a huge thing. And if you pay attention and get wrapped up in all the negativity and the doom and gloom, it paralyzes you. And that's something that, you can go and study like political campaigns and see what's effective and what's not. when you have messaging of doom and gloom and, pitting one against the other, it's really good at stopping someone in their tracks and getting them to stop doing something. But it doesn't really inspire them to action, to changing something and being an active participant in creating a better world. To do that, you need to inspire hope with someone, and you need to resonate with who they are as a person. And, my role at Savory is communication. And I find that people are so much more appreciative when they are given messages of hope and positive case studies of people
But
who have done
we're not being rosy tinted, because your chart can tend to be rosy tinted glasses. So can we just be real? Is there a concern that if Savory doesn't get in enough impact to be able to save the land and the desertification? Wait, say it again.
Desertification.
I just love that word. Is there a concern, like a genuine concern on your part around the reality? I know you're an optimist.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm suggesting that we be optimistic, because that's what helped me with Pamela's film. I want to hear from you the reality, Mr. Capricorn.
Yeah. Well, I think the reality is that we are not the only people that are trying to change. There are so many well-intentioned people and organizations that are doing the best they can to enact change. And if you look at the trends of where things have been going, this movement that we're in, regenerative agriculture, is just getting bigger, and it is snowballing downhill and just getting massive and massive. When we started this, Alan Savory, our founder, conceptualized holistic management, the method we teach, back in the 60s. He was just a lone wolf at that point, just banging the drum of holistic management, teaching people, teaching government agencies, whatever it may be. Since then, it has blossomed into this global movement. And now, Savory Institute, we've been able to influence about 42 million acres worldwide. We've trained over 14,000 people. We've got 50 different Savory hubs, which are our local learning centers. So there's a lot of momentum behind this, and we aren't the only ones out there, which that gives me a lot of hope. You were talking about all the documentaries that you've seen. Kiss the Ground is on Netflix. How amazing is that you can go turn on Netflix and see a documentary that inspires hope about soil health and regenerative agriculture? That speaks to where this is going.
Have you seen Choosing Earth that just came out with, there was 3 luminaries. One was Jack Cornfield, one was Lynn Twist, and one was Joanne Macy. You've got to watch it. It just came out.
I have not, but I would love to see that.
But they're saying it's a little nerve-wracking. Lynn Twist looks right into the camera and she goes, "We are in hospice, and we can't pretend we're not watching an end of an era." So now it's not a bad thing, but she speaks directly to hospice. What do you say about that?
Well, and so to that, I would say that, yes, I think we are in hospice, but I think we are in hospice in terms of our current mode of existence. I don't think we're in hospice for humanity. I think that we are going through the cycles of life: birth, growth, death, decay. Death and decay are a necessary component to bring life to something new. And right now, the way that we operate as a global society in this hyper-capitalist society that is powered by the destruction of our planet and the marginalization of people and social inequities, all of that must come to an end. And I think it is. And I think perhaps we are seeing those dying last gasps for air from that dying way of living. And I don't yet know what that's going to turn out to be, but I think there's a lot of potential when you look at what's happening with regenerative agriculture. There's a psychedelic renaissance that's going on right now. There's Web3 and cryptocurrency and the decentralization and transparency of finance and governance. There's all these really big movements that when you take a step back and look at what's happening, it looks like society is moving towards a place of really reinventing itself. And to me, I think that's really inspiring and hopeful.
Mr. Optimist, is there any negativity? Are you scared, or you're just full on jump off the plane? We got this.
Well, yeah, I have no problem jumping out of the plane. Totally got that. The thing that I think I'm nervous about is the tribalization, the us versus them, where we get into our camps and it becomes red versus blue, left versus right, us versus them. that sort of stuff, and we're all in our echo chambers. There's something about Savory Institute, our work, where, we deal with farming and ranching communities. So very rural communities often, but at the same time, the products that come off of those lands are the ones that are most wanted by those in the urban centers. And then when you look at that from a political spectrum, what we're doing is we are providing resilience to landscapes. So, that's more of, you'd look at more conservative circles are the ones that are pushing for those sort of things. But then it's also an environmental play.
What do you mean by landscapes?
Providing abundance and resilience back to rural farming communities, ones that have been left behind and forgotten because people have all gone to take the important city job. And, they feel like, most of a lot of the country, you've probably heard the term, it's, flyover state or flyover country. There's this perception that I think a lot of people have that farming and ranching is perhaps a less desirable career track. And so I think there's an opportunity here with regenerative agriculture for land managers to really establish themselves as the heroes, showing the value that they provide in terms of we put food on everyone's plate. And not only do we do that, but we're actually healing this planet and giving us a livable planet into the future. So, we should all be thankful for those that are tending to the land on our behalf.
I love that. Every once in a while, your voice, the words disappear, but it's kind of funny. Okay, hold on a minute. So Mr. Passion, you have a lot of passion.
I like to think so. Yeah, I love my job.
I can't believe, I'm so excited about the impact that Savory Institute, bells are going off. It must be true. I'm so excited that there's this much energy that is occurring. Bells are just a symbol. Everyone says when a bell goes off, an angel gets its wings. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, I think that's a Christmas movie, right?
That's right. That's right. So whenever I hear phones ringing, instead of getting annoyed, I go, oh my goodness, an angel's getting its wings. Maybe there's two.
See, you're an optimist as well.
Oh no, I am a full op, but I'm a realist, and I'm very passionate about making sure that the education be authentic. This is my life's work. And astrology is one of those things that gives people the big, long view, which is fascinating to you. Astrology gives us the gift of saying, oh, this is the long view. And when we take that into account, said the Hawaiians, there's not such a fear, because we've been through this before. The planet has gone through regenerative energetics where things have shifted radically. The difference is now we have conscious guardians like you at the helm saying, excuse me, Mr. Savory, I think we could do this and return to basics and bring it back. And that's so exciting. So that's the good news. The bad news is what Jeff really wanted to talk about was legislation. The people that I've talked to, there's a great book called Climate Cure. And he specifically talks about the emotional content of being able to regenerate our own internal world to stay positive, but also the important effect on legislation, which is one of Jeff's biggest concerns. Is the government going to support this? So what do you think about that?
Oh my God. What do I think about the government? Well, the easy answer is, from Savory Institute's perspective, we work across the globe. And so it's probably a blessing and a curse that we don't have the capacity to get involved at the government level, because, we work in 30 different countries. And so, I can know what's going on locally here in Colorado or even politically across the US, but that's me as an individual. And, I'm not really a policy wonk to get into that
I love
stuff.
this. So you're just transcending that. I like it. So it's just really about the ability that we have to actually, how can we support you? What can we do if we don't, obviously we're not farmers, said the astrologer. We live in Hawaii, which is abundant. What can I do to make a difference to help you?
Well, I think there's a variety of different things that folks can do. I'd say the most important thing is to align your values with your purchasing power. So, we vote with our dollar 3 times a day for the
Yep,
food
Deb
that we
said the
eat.
exact same thing, just so you know. Keep going.
Yes, it is really the most important thing we do, because when we vote with our dollar, whether it's for food or the clothes on our backs or the cars we drive or whatever it may be, those send signals back to the marketplace. And then the marketplace responds to those signals. That is the reality of how it works. And so in terms of farming and agriculture, whether you're talking about food, I'm not saying, Deb, you have to give up vegetarianism and go eat a juicy steak that comes off of one of our ranches. No, of course not. But you know what? Grasslands are also grazed by sheep, and sheep produce what? Wool. So, do you have a nice wool sweater? Well, there you go. How was that sheep raised? Was that regenerating the land, or was it destroying the land? Those are purchasing power.
How do you buy, I'm a cashmere slut. I wear anything cashmere, no matter what size it is. How do you buy cashmere that is being supported by?
So Savory has a program. It's called Land to Market. And Land to Market, essentially, we are connecting these land managers, these farmers and ranchers that we work with around the world. We're connecting them to brands that want to bring regenerative agriculture products to market. And so we work with, I think we've got about 65 different brands we're working with right now. But with those brands, you can find the seal. It says Land to Market verified on the product. So when you go to the store, you can buy a carton of milk that's Land to Market verified. You can buy a steak that's Land to Market verified. You can buy leather boots from Timberland that are Land to Market verified. You can buy Eileen Fisher, the women's fashion brand. You can buy a nice wool cardigan that's Land to Market verified. Who else is in the program? Burberry just joined. UGG boots. We have Herring Corporation. They are the holding company for Balenciaga and Gucci and Stella McCartney and all of them. There's a lot of momentum happening right now. And, I'm just naming a lot of the big brands that are, kind of recognizable to folks. We're also dealing with a lot of the small regional local brands as well. So, I would say go to your local store and look to see, look on the label. And if you see something that's Land to Market verified, that's a good way to align your values with your
That was really good information. Now I'm going to ask you a hard question. What about plastic? I feel so bad every time I use my vitamins and I break I'd like, help me. What do I do?
God, I don't know about that one. I am not a plastics expert. I would say try to reduce your consumption of plastics, try
that
to bring.
Was just a really good sentence, Bobby. I mean, because when you hear about, this is one of the things you'll get in that film, Choosing Earth. By 2050, there'll be more plastic in the water than fish.
Yeah, that's a sad reality. And I think it speaks to the type of lifestyles that we're all used to living. I mean, there's certain conveniences in life that we all come to expect, whether that's driving in a car to the grocery store and being able to buy the foods that we want to buy, or being able to, hop on the internet and have power to be able to do this and, open a bottle of water, or, whatever it may be. But there's ways that I think that our society is going to radically change in the coming decades. And I think it'll be for the better. I think there will be some growing pains with that and things that we're going to have to get used to. But I think that a lot of joy will come out of it as well. You look to like how cities are designed, for example. That's something that I think is going to change, turning cities to be more walkable and bike friendly, so that people aren't driving cars everywhere, and we can just not just move to electric vehicles, but move towards less energy consumption.
3 to 5 out of 5 people are riding their bikes. I ride my bike everywhere. I don't get in my car. So this is, and in Boulder, I live part-time in Boulder, and I do the same there. So this is what I want to suggest to my audience, whoever's watching this. There are practical things you can do. I don't know about the plastic one. I have to confess, I feel very guilty, because I literally do vitamins twice a day, and they come in a package, and I keep thinking, okay, that's my problem, and I'm going to.
Or you could just eat whole foods that have those vitamins naturally. So
when you're 95 years old and you're trying to stay young, you kind of have to have a little. There's not vitamins or supplements, but that's beside the point. The thing I want to say is, I made a decision about biking. That was my contribution. I've stopped flying. I used to fly 100,000 miles a year. I have ended that. I'm down to I think maybe 10,000 this year, but
that's
I want
a big one. Yeah.
But these are the ways that we can make a difference at now, because any of us who have children, or are you thinking of having children when you grow up?
I have a 1-year-old daughter. So yeah, she just turned 1 like a week ago. So yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about all this for her. You know, what type of world am I leaving for her? What sort of example am I showing to her in terms of how you should, you know, presence yourself in the world, and like what sort of impact do you have on that world? Like I want to lead by example, but also leave her something good.
And so you are eating foods that are, as you described, I'd never heard that term again. Do it again, land to table.
Land to market verified. So you can go to Savory's website. Savory's website is savory.global. And we have a regenerative buying guide there on the website. It's there in the navigation menu, and you can see all these different products. And that's not even a comprehensive buying guide. That's a curated one. You know, there's a lot more out there than what's on the list. But I mean, you can get soaps and CBD oils and wine. And I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that you can do. And then, you know, if you want to reduce your consumption and you're like, well, okay, he's telling me to buy more things to be better. Like there's kind of like a double-edged sword there, which I think is accurate. You know, you can also support organizations that are doing this work. You know, Savory Institute is a nonprofit, so you can always donate to the Savory Institute. We would gladly take donations, and it would help us educate more farmers and ranchers, and not just educate, but equip them with the resources and programs that they need to be successful so that they can transition from these really extractive, destructive, conventional, industrial, fossil fuel driven practices towards a more nature-based, regenerative way of existing on the land. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do at every turn.
Are you going to write a book when you grow up?
Maybe.
I mean, it seems you have no air in your chart. You know what that means? You're going to
No.
laugh when I tell you this is the funniest conversation, that writing and communicating and socializing is not your specialty, but it looks like you're such a good communicator.
Well, my career started off as an engineer. So I did that for the first decade or so of my career, but realized that being a paper pusher just didn't do it for me. And I knew there was more to it. I think I found my voice, you know, with Savory Institute, and really hit the sweet spot.
Let me help you with that. Let me
lie.
help you with that. Excuse me. Yes, you found your voice. You're so articulate. I'm like learning so much right now. But no
Thank
air
you.
means that socializing and dippy conversations and just being around people and using the internet and doing texting is not your favorite thing. It's concrete results. You're looking for hands-on, how to make a difference in practical ways. Am I right or am I right?
Yes, absolutely. And I would imagine that everyone would want that. But then again, maybe that's just my bias because that's who I am and that's how I see the world.
Well, I'm telling you that as an astrologer, because that's what I am, that you're built for your job as a double earth sign. You're grounded and you're bringing results. And then as this person with so much fire, you're passionate about taking the risk and traveling and really shouting from the hilltops, like, excuse me. So and I remember when we first met, you were like, whoop, like, I could help you. I'm Bobby. Remember that?
Well, it wasn't even I could help you. I was just like, here's this thing that you seem to have curiosity about, and I would love to feed that curiosity.
Well,
because it's something I'm very passionate about.
I can't tell. So, Mr. Funny, you're supposed to be funny, by the way. Don't you have a funny sense of humor?
I guess. I don't know. But this is work. This is serious. I don't
Capricorn. You're such a Capricorn. I'm telling you that one of your gifts is humor.
know.
You're
Okay.
supposed to be laughing all the time. If you're not laughing, something's fishy. Okay, so here's some of my questions from my podcast.
All right,
If
let's do
you
it.
weren't talking about all of this, what would you be doing instead? If it wasn't regenerative, you know, Mr. Unbelievable, regenerative agriculture, what would you be talking about?
I am very interested in evolutionary biology, looking at how we have evolved as a species and what that means for health.
What an interesting topic. It's another whole podcast. Okay, I'm going to ask you another question. What's one thing you couldn't live without?
Oh, what could I not live without? I want to say coffee, but I bet you I probably could if I tried.
I bet you could if you had to.
Yeah,
Okay, when's the
I could
last
not
time?
live. I could not live without my wife and daughter.
Oh, that was the right answer. I was hoping you'd say that. And when's the last time that you cried?
Oh God. The other day when I forget what it was, but I was having a moment with my daughter in the nursery, and it was one of those moments where she was just like nuzzled up on me so tightly. And I just had one of those moments where we were able to connect, and just like a little tear came up of just like, God, I'm just in love with this moment and this tiny little human so much.
Oh my God, I love that so much. If there was someone who's not alive or alive that you could have a conversation with, who would it be? Like if you could sit down and just say, this person was totally available to you for a great conversation, who would that be?
Ram Dass.
Good answer. Oh, I like
Be here
it.
now.
Be here now. Right answer. Okay. And then what are you working on right now that's got you super excited? Duh.
I mean, everything that we've discussed right now. God, what am I so excited about? I mean, just everything at Savory we've been talking about right now. It feels like for many years we've been pushing this boulder up a hill, and now it feels like we're chasing it downhill. But next year, the way everything is coming together is poised to be this year where everything kind of locks in place. And I think it's going to be really transformational. So I'm just really excited for the coming year.
It's so funny because I feel exactly the same way about astrology and this podcast, and that where for so many years, I've been doing this for over 40 years, 44
Wow.
years. People thought astrology was poo-poo, and it was really disregarded as being some kind of leftover from some ancient times that no one could recall, nor were they interested. It was like a parlor trick. And I have tried to establish, it's not unlike Savory. I've tried to change the mindset and say to people, this is really a tool that assists people to fall in love with who they are and be confirmed, as I'm doing with you, of their purpose, so they don't feel so confused and they can put both feet in. Now, you're a classical case of a Capricorn who said, I got this. And then your moon's in an earth sign, you're like, double got this. And then you got all this fire going, listen to me. I'll follow the leader because I know he's got the right answer. Mr. Savory, I'm yours.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, the thing you're talking about of, you know, astrology and some people, like, you know, if they think it's poo-poo or whatever it may be, I've thought of this previously as it relates to like those personality exams and, you know, all the different types of things that are out there and the value that they provide. It doesn't matter if something is definitively true or 100% accurate or whatever it may be. That, I think, is a moot point. I think the more important point is how can we ask questions and try to understand ourselves better as human beings so that we can understand ourselves and others and be in better relationship with one another. And if astrology or personality traits or, you know, whatever any of these things are, allow us to better understand ourselves and other humans, I think it is the process of curiosity and asking questions and inner exploration that's going to lead to these better outcomes. And I think there's tremendous value in that.
I love it. You're such a good communicator. Can I just tell you that astrology is 100% accurate? What happened?
I'm sure it is. I just don't know much about it.
2014.
What happened?
That was a turning point in your chart.
In 2014?
And you were just turning 30. Yeah. Did you meet your wife?
No, 2014, I quit my FDA job in September of 2013. So
that's right.
And then into 2014 is when I kind of like started this next chapter of my life.
So what we call that in 2013 and 14, Saturn went to Scorpio, where you were when it was born, when you were born, and it changes the templates and everything changes. So you left behind a career and its destiny line began. And that's what Saturn return does. It's a little awkward because everything feels really shaky at that moment.
Yeah. I mean, it was shaky probably through 2016. It was probably 2 years of shakiness.
That's right. So this is Astrology 101, and just wanted to validate that I could mark the point where your destiny came in and shifted. And then 2017 is when life became.
Well, so then what are the future?
Oh, no, we're not doing that right now. Hello.
What? Oh, come on.
You have to.
You got to have something else that you can tell me.
No. You have to go get a reading. That's my job, is just to inspire you to believe in astrology. And yes, you're coming into a major cycle, to be perfectly honest. This year is a turning point again with the templates, not like it was then, not like letting go completely, but altering your trajectory into another angle. And so you're right in the midst of a shift. But that's a separate topic. So we're going to finish this podcast by saying, look at Bobby, I got your interest peaked. You certainly, and thank you so much. This is exactly my fantasy about my podcast was agricultural, environmental ecosystems, talking about it with a sexy, interesting angle using astrology to get people interested, because I don't think anything matters more at all, except
It's the basis of all that we do. Agriculture is the basis of everything. It's taking that energy from the sun, that infinite source of energy, and it turns it into vegetation, which turns into, then you have the trophic cascade into different animals, and that's where all of life happens. And so, it starts with agriculture.
Oh my God, this is so funny. So we're finishing when the bell goes off, and you just spoke to the sun, which is my life's work, and we spoke to the soil, which is your life's work. What a team. And I want to thank you so much for being here. That was a great interview. You should use this on your side, because
I will
articulated it so clearly. And this is the I Don't Believe in Astrology podcast. So if you don't believe in it, it doesn't matter. It was still the truth.
Thank you so much for listening.
Absolutely.
We want to keep this conversation going with you. So please subscribe to our podcast and leave a rating and review to make sure you never miss an episode. Remember, climate activist by day, human by night. Send Debra a DM on Instagram at Debra Silverman Astrology and visit DebraSilvermanAstrology.com. And we're going to leave you like we leave every single episode. Make it your mission to change the world.